Welcome to the Feel Better, Live Better podcast. Our goal is to provide you insightful conversations about all things health and wellness. We dive into the stories, science, strategies that help you optimize your well-being, physically, mental, and emotional health. Each episode features engaging discussions with health experts, real-life success stories, and practical advice to empower you on your wellness journey. Whether we're breaking down the latest medical advancements, exploring holistic health solutions, or chatting about everyday habits that make a difference, our goal is simple: to help you feel better and live better. Tune in for inspiring narratives, expert consultations, candid conversations that bring health to life, one talk at a time.
If you enjoy our podcast, please like and subscribe and consider becoming a digital subscriber to the Albuquerque Journal to help us bring you more content like this. You can find this episode and all of our podcasts on the Albuquerque Journal website, abqjournal.com, as well as YouTube, iTunes, and Spotify. See the show notes for a discount code on a digital subscription. Thank you for supporting the Albuquerque Journal, New Mexico's leading news.
Welcome back to Feel Better, Live Better, the podcast where we explore simple, real-life strategies to help you take charge of your health, boost your energy, and live a life that feels good from the inside out. Today's episode is all about transforming your well-being from the ground up, mind, body, and habits. We're diving into what really means to work with a health coach and how that support can make lasting change possible. I'm so excited to welcome today's guest, Mashelle Baker. We'll explore how health coaching goes beyond diet advice to support mindset shifts, sustainable habits, and whole body wellness. If you've ever felt stuck in your health goals or unsure where to begin, this one's for you. Let's get into it.
Beyond Health is dedicated to helping patients achieve a life of health. Our passion at Beyond Health is transforming your health so you can live the very best life. Beyond Health can be your partner in your journey to optimal health.
Today, we're joined by Mashelle Baker, who is a health coach.
Thank you. So yes, I'm Mashelle Baker. I currently live in New Mexico. I'm a board-certified functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner and a certified functional medicine health coach.
All right. So, Mashelle, why don't you tell us what got you into being a health coach?
So I primarily was pretty healthy until I turned about 40 years old, and I had a background in teaching and social work, and I decided that I wanted to go into pathology. So I started getting my degree in pathology, and I started working at a hospital, and I worked in the lab, and I was eating the hospital food and thinking I was doing everything okay. And just over a couple years of time, I gained a lot of weight, and I didn't feel good, and I was searching for things to help me feel good. And so I had an advisor that directed me to go to functional medicine school. And because at the time I thought I wanted to become an MD because I was just getting fatter and sicker and just unhealthy. And he directed me to go to functional medicine school. And that's what the turning point was.
Yeah, so why don't you tell our listeners what a health coach is? I think it's a newer topic for so many patients and clients. But just tell us a little bit about what you describe to your clients as far as what a health coach is.
So I think, there's many kinds of health coaches. So, basically, we're just like a regular coach. So we coach our team or we coach our individual to meeting a goal or to meeting a protocol or to dominating, health. And in my industry, we work on root cause correction. So when we have patients come to my practice, we work on correcting root cause or, adjusting the symptoms to alleviate symptoms. They're referred to us through physicians, or they're referred to us from functional medicine practitioners or practitioners like yourself, or I have my own practice, and they get a hold of me that way.
Okay. So I think, especially with the patients that I see at Beyond Health, a lot of people really struggle for lasting changes. What have you noticed? What are some common mindset blocks you see, and how do you help your clients overcome those mind blocks to truly live a healthy lifestyle?
So when patients come to me, the first thing that we work on is lifestyle and environment changes. And what that could look like is, primarily I see women too. So my women they start at, around age 40 and go to age about 73 is the oldest that I see currently. And when they come to us, they're busy taking care of everybody else. They take care of family, they take care of friends, they take care of everybody but themselves. And so we teach them to become, while they're working with us, pretty self-centered. And I know that term, means other things, but for me in my practice, it means that we want to focus on working with them. So to change bad habits and to change the trajectory of the diagnosis of what they have, they need to become very, very self-centered with themselves to make changes. And to make a mindset change, it takes a lot, and we talk about what that looks like. We have them fill out assessments, and from those assessments, we gather information. So I get pretty nosy. I want to know about the diet, the rest, the exercise. I want to know where they live, how they wake up, how they go to bed. I have to know the whole lifestyle. So I sit back and I listen, and I let them talk. And, through questioning that we have and listening to what they have to bring to the table, we can make a protocol to adjust some of that.
Yep. So I think, one thing that I've recently implemented for my elite members at Beyond Health is I call them walk and talks. So that's literally what they are. I meet clients at a park, at their house, whatever it might be, and we just go walk around the neighborhood. And because what we see, I think, for you and for myself, as far as, we get such a short picture of them in a clinic situation that we really don't understand those outside barriers. And it also helps me set some goals for the patients that they will actually stick with. Mm-hmm. So I'd be curious, what is your approach to clients to help them set some attainable goals that they will actually be able to stick with?
Yeah, so we do talk about goals, but we don't use the word goals. So we use the word protocol in our practice. And the reason why is because a lot of the women that come to us, they've made the goals at the beginning of the year, and those goals last for 2 weeks, or they make the birthday party goal that they're only going to drink one more time, and then the next year comes around and they drink again, So we talk about what a protocol is, and really how in a clinical study, the way that protocol is used is it's adjusted, and we want them to be able to obtain goals, but we want them managed, we want them measured, and we put a protocol together that we can see progress. Now, progress isn't always towards the goal. Sometimes they go back a little bit, but we put in place, what if something goes, what if you do go backwards? So then what are you going to put in place to go forward? So we really talk about success. We really talk about what it's going to look like at the end. Yep, you have a few little hurdles that we have to jump over, and it may take a little bit longer than the 6 months or the 1 year long, whatever program they sign up for. It may take a little bit longer, but we put things in place so that when there's something that comes along and it's not met, well, then we're going to put something else in place that is met.
Yep. So what are some powerful habits that you recommend that you've noticed they might not be might not see a huge change from a health perspective, but it's a powerful habit that has a huge impact on their overall health span? And, for instance, for me, I just tell patients, just move every day. That is one thing that if you can just find 20, 30 minutes every day, regardless if it's a walk, if it's lifting weights, whatever that might be. And then I also relate it to myself. Yes, I work out 3 to 4 times a week, but those other days, I'm always moving at some intentional, purposeful movement. So I'd just be curious, for your clients that come to you as a health coach, what are those small but yet powerful habits you help them?
So we try to pick 3 things, and those 3 things are non-negotiable. So the term non-negotiable, it means just that. So they're going to pick 3 things that they're going to include in their daily lives that they're going to do. And if something were to come up, then they have to have a 4th one to replace the one that didn't get met. So they didn't walk in the morning, but then they're going to do something else in place of that. Maybe they're going to get down and do an exercise snack. So that could be 10 push-ups. That is just a little snack, but it's a burst of exercise, that they've completed. So we talk about having the non-negotiables, because there's things that happen every day in everyday life that come up, that maybe you got to go pick up a child, or maybe you got to go pick up somebody and then you're not going to be able to fulfill that goal. But if you put something else in place, then they feel like they've accomplished. And, that's the most important thing, doing something that you're accomplished, because at the end of the day, we always have them write down 3 things that they accomplished. And it could be one of those 3 things, or it could be something that they put in place of, that they didn't get met.
Yeah. So moving kind of towards nutrition, one thing that I struggle with the patients that come into Beyond Health is there is so much conflicting data out there as far as food, carnivore diet to paleo to, you name it, there's a diet that has a name to it, right? Mm-hmm. So how do you help clients make better food choices so that it's not overwhelming to them and they're not being pulled from the latest whatever diet name craze that's out there?
So, this was one of my problems. So before I went to functional medicine school, I was obese, and I had a few diagnoses, and I always thought I was eating the best thing. I always thought I was picking the best thing because the package said heart healthy. So that's what I was picking. I thought I was cooking with the right oil. I thought I even had the greatest nonstick pans, and all the things. And come to find out, none of that. None of that really related to anything. But in my practice, when we do lab testing, we also do lab testing for metabolic type. So what does metabolic type mean? It means how does your body take in the nutrients and how does your body break down the foods that you eat? So I use myself for an example. So I'm a fast oxidizer. I do really good on high purine meats and high purine vegetables. And when we test, then we get back the test results and we go over what their body says. Are they a fast oxidizer, a slow oxidizer? Are they parasympathetic? How does their body take in foods and break the foods down and get rid of the foods? Are they detoxifying all their foods? And we've had very good success with metabolic type because it's not necessarily a diet that you follow and they're not meal plans that you follow. It spits out, after they do the testing, it spits out a whole list of foods that they can choose from, and so they incorporate their own meals with these foods. And we teach about high purine, low purine, what foods according to their type is best for them. And we really have a really good outcome with that because they don't have to guess. They can pick the foods off their list. Another thing is, of course, we want date night. We have family reunions. We have things that they want to go to. And so they know from their food list what foods they can choose at restaurants. And they just ask for no spray oils. Can you please, cook without dipping it in anything? Can you just cook my food plain, and can I get a meal like that?
So I'd be curious, what type of test is that? Is that a blood test? Is that a saliva test?
So in my practice, we pull stool, saliva, blood, and urine all at the same time. So we don't just pull a blood test. And with that testing, when that testing goes to the lab, then they will take a survey. And that survey is a 50-question survey. And from that survey is how they get their results.
So I think, you and I, and especially with our businesses, we understand the importance of exercise. I mean, that is by far the biggest longevity hack you can do for yourself is just daily exercise. But I'm curious, how do you approach exercise with clients who have maybe never been a mover in their life and is a little intimidated or unsure how to begin the process?
Sure. So, like I said, I primarily see women in my practice, and a lot of times they're coming to me wired but tired. They don't sleep at night. Their hormones are not on. They have a bunch of things going on, and they're catabolic. So meaning that their body's not processing, what it needs to process to rest and digest throughout the night and then wake up with energy the next morning. So a lot of times we start out with what I call vital reserve. So maybe through some pharmaceutical grade supplementation, some lifestyle changes that we put in place, and meeting. So they agree to meet once a week, and we meet for an hour at a time. And in an hour at a time, you can find out a lot of things. And we've set them up on a D.R.E.S.S protocol because that's easy for a woman to remember. It's diet, rest, exercise, supplementation, and stress management. But for somebody that has never exercised, I'm lucky that I have a full gym in my practice. So I videotape because I see women in 48 states. So I videotape using my equipment, and we talk about how to load the machines, how to unload the machines. We talk about gym, how do you go to a gym? How do you act at a gym? We talk about not being on the phone at the gym, but we start off slow. But I think with the feedback that I've gotten is, yes, I got the video that you sent me, and I was able to find the machine pretty quickly, or they didn't feel intimidated. They'd go up to the front and ask, hey, where is this leg press, or where is this machine? And they feel a little bit, better about doing that. A lot of times, I also work with women that live in rural areas. And so using, your own body weight, there's a lot of things that you can do, with your own body weight. And I work with a rancher girl, and she said, I'm never going to go to the gym, but we've incorporated, so we've set up in her protocol, a whole entire protocol on how to work around her ranch. So she does pull-ups out at her ranch. Her husband made her a little pull-up machine, and so she does that outside, but she does push-ups and sit-ups, and she does ride. She rides horses all day, and so that in itself is good exercise. Plus, she gets to breathe the air and all the things. But if there's a will, there's a way, and so to set someone up on exercise, I listen, and we go with what they want to do, but there's a way to incorporate exercise. And if it not be at the gym, then it be at home in their own, in their own space. But you're right. They do have to have exercise. I mean, it's going to set them up for longevity too.
So I think, stress can raise havoc on the body, right? I mean, I think, we see it from a metabolic perspective, cognitive perspective, and obviously a weight that, if people's cortisol is high, as you and I both know, there's no way they're going to be losing weight until we manage those cortisol levels. But I would be like, so what stress techniques do you offer your clients to help them manage it or just decompress?
Sure. So there's a lot of modalities. We're actually lucky to live right now because there are a lot of neat modalities that we can include, in everyday practice. But first of all, we talk about stress. And we talk about how they perceive stress. So we ask them, what are the 5 things, when they come to their appointment the next time we want them to come, the topic is the 5 stressful things. What are the top 5 stressful things in your everyday living or weekly living? And when they come to us, we talk about, okay, so this is the stressful thing, but how do you perceive it? How do you react to it? And we put in place a reaction or a thought that is going to go in the opposite direction of how they used to think about that thing. So for instance, I had a lady in Albuquerque the other day, and she told me, I drive to work, and by the time I get to work, I'm so berserk because of this construction going on. And I said, well, have you ever thought of a different way to go? She said, well, there's no other way. So together we sat on the maps, and we got out the maps, and we found another way. You know what she told me last week? Well, I'm just going to go my new way from now on because I like it better because there's nicer houses. There's, these different stores that I like to shop at anyway, so I'm just going to go all the way around. But she put up with that for 4 years. Yeah. And so we talked, and just that little bit of talking about how she perceived the ride, and then how her coworkers had to put up with her, and her boss didn't hire her to come to work, in a berserk, manner. So that stopped it. But I understand that there's living situations that cause stress that the people, that our clients or our patients are unable to get away from. And we talk about what it looks like, what changes can be made, and go from there, and build on top of that.
So, I mean, perfect segment to the other. So how do you see the link between mental health and physical health with your clients? And I think the example you just gave me as far as that client that came to work already stressed out, and it was just simply, changing her route. Mm-hmm. So what other areas do you see that correlation as far as mental, physical?
So like I mentioned, a lot of our patients come to us wired and tired. They come to us with brain fog. So brain fog is probably the number one symptom that I see 9 times out of 10 because I primarily work with women. And so when we talk about lifestyle and environment, I want to know what they're cleaning with, how they're cleaning with it. I want to know what they're eating, who they're around, what their whole entire lifestyle is. So these are a lot of questions. This is about 150 questions that we ask, because I want to be able to put that into a protocol, to correct that. But the link between mental health and physical health it's absolute. We have to work on the mental health to get to the physical health, because you have to give energy to get energy. And, chronic lifestyle equals chronic disease. Yeah. And so those are a few things that we work on, that we try to adjust.
Yeah. No, and I think that's when patients come in at Beyond Health, they want to get to the physical part of it, as far as what I can do with peptides, hormones, supplements. But a lot of times I kind of have to stop them and say, well, there's this this stressful thing that's in your life right now that we have to address before you'll ever see the benefits. And I honestly, I don't want patients to waste money. I always tell them, like, I selfishly want results. Right. So I'm not going to recommend, even though I know it would help you, but you're going to be throwing money at something you're never going to see the full impact of it until we, again, like with cortisol, go back and start managing those cortisol levels along with their dopamine levels. Mm-hmm. So what's one change someone could make today that could have a huge impact on their energy, their mood, and just overall well-being, that you might suggest?
So I think, this is a good question. So I've talked about, people coming to us stressed out. They have all the things going on, but they need to become very self-centered. They need to set up a plan, and then they need to have a projection. Like, if you felt good, if you could rid some disease, if you could become metabolically, functional again, what does that look like? And it may be a picture. It might be a real picture of maybe someone that they want to look like. We sometimes, they might not know what that means. They might not know what that look like. They don't. I've had a lot of women that I say, do you know what muscle structure on a body looks like? They don't. They're so inflamed, and everyone around them is inflamed, and they might not know what that looks like. So, really, we pull out pictures, and we pull out and we talk about how to get to this place. What can they implement in their own mind, and what can they see themselves looking like, or what would their life look like if they did make these changes?
Well, and I think helping patients look at it from a mind shift. Mm-hmm. When patients come to me for the first time, or even you, it's a totally different kind of medicine that they've ever encountered. A lot of people. Right. Now, there are some that have been in cellular clinics before and kind of understand what we're doing. But I really like, a simple way how I explain it is like, we're practicing health medicine, right, not disease medicine. Right. So that is, I'm going to interpret labs totally different than your, primary or whoever else you might be seeing is saying, oh, your thyroid is normal. But you and I both know normal is not normal, right? And, and I always explain, like, if you looked at 5 different lab companies, every lab company is going to have a different reference range. I wished in the perfect world I could just delete reference ranges, because patients get focused on that, yes, right? But I think once they understand that mindset, that no matter what you are doing, what I'm doing at Beyond Health, it's truly about health span, health medicine, and as a result, creating lifestyle, truly lifestyle changes, right? Like, right, truly creating a healthy lifestyle.
Right. With that being said, mm-hmm, some people don't know what a healthy lifestyle look like. Yep. We have easy access to phones. We have easy access to computers. We have easy access to gaming. We have easy access to dating apps. We have easy access to a lot of things that some people really, truly, when I talk to them, do not understand what a healthy lifestyle looks like, because they think they are cooking good. They think they are eating the good things, and it's advertised as heart healthy. So those are the foods that they're looking at. But I think teaching we don't eat anything in a bag or a box.
Yep.
We eat whole foods. What does whole foods look like? And then how do we cook those foods? So when we break this down and go into it, and I want to listen, to what the client or the patient has to say. And then I want to give them the other, the way that we do it, what we're cooking in, how we're cooking, how we're preparing our food, and talk about digestive enzymes, before they ever eat, our digestion is set up to start breaking the foods down. And what does their chewing pattern look like? Do they have enough teeth to chew the food? I know from myself, I didn't realize I had crisscross jaws. I wore braces for 4 times thinking that was going to fix the problem until I was 50 years old and had no teeth. So I had to completely go through mouth reconstruction, but I had no enzymes to even break down the food because I couldn't masticate the food, chew the food correctly. So when people do make healthy lifestyle changes, this is one thing that I always hear. They tell me, you know what, it's exhausting to eat this way because they have to chew the food. They prepare the food, they chew the food, they digest the food, although they feel better and the snacking goes away and there's a lot of things that go away. So I think teaching a healthy lifestyle and having practices like ours that look at health, just like you said, different. It's not sick health. This is health care.
Yep. Well, and I think, I was at a conference last weekend of a guy that's a trainer, but he has his own podcast, Mind Pump. But he has 30 plus years of just data collection because he's been in this industry forever. Uh-huh. And just simply having people not eat anything processed. So it kind of goes back to that saying that I tell patients all the time. If it's not picked, pulled, or killed, we probably shouldn't be eating it, right?
Yes.
And then if you have to open up a bag or unwrap something, we probably shouldn't be doing it. But it's literally that simple. If we can just, I think and I think now with social media and podcasts, people are they understand how bad our food really is. Yeah. So I know that there's awareness, but I think, a lot of people are just stuck of like, well, I don't know how to fix this. Uh-huh. And that's why, I'm excited to work with people like you that I have a source that I can refer patients to that really want to dive deeper into those health habits. So, Mashelle, are there any daily routines or wellness practices you personally swear by?
So it took me a long time. It took me about 5 years to get here, but I live on a circadian rhythm, and I teach everybody in my practice, to live on a circadian rhythm. So because your hormones rise and they fall with the circadian rhythm, and your digestion rises and falls with the circadian rhythm. And so what I incorporate is I get out in the morning and I look at the real true, red light. So I actually have an app, and the app will ding, and then that's when I go outside. And for 10 minutes, I just stand there and look at the sun, and I do ground myself at the same time, so I don't wear any shoes. I'm lucky. I have grass in my backyard, so I literally just stand there. And I used to do a box breathing technique, but now I've incorporated just 5 obnoxious breaths because, after we're 30 years old, we quit using our diaphragms, and I really want to open up my diaphragm. And so I literally have incorporated these 5 breaths, but the funny thing is, the research shows, and I've never done cocaine or drugs before, but the effects of that is lasting. And I'm going to tell you, I feel good, really good until about 11 o'clock. Like I can feel the effects of that. And then, of course, I'm lucky. I have medical grade red light therapy that I do 5 days out of 7. And then I do a hot bath. So I do a chemical-free hot bath. I wake up at 4:30 in the morning. So this is how I have time to incorporate all this. And then I start my meal for my zip code. So my breakfast is at 6:38, right now, because this is the time of year that we're in, at 6:38. And then I go on with my day. I get ready, and then I have clinic, around 8:30. So I start around 8:30, with my clinic. But I just find that incorporating this sets my whole day up, and I purposely, non-negotiably do this. And when my husband and I travel a little bit, and whenever we travel, I might do the breaths, or I might even take a cold shower instead of a hot shower, just to try to get that feeling, because that feeling, it feels really
People
good.
become addicted to it.
Yes. And of course, now we have a lot of neat modalities, that we can do. But those are a few that I do.
So how can listeners know if a health coach might be the right fit for them?
Sure. So, we work on root cause correction. And so what does that be? What does that mean? That means that I use myself for an example. So I was diagnosed type 2 diabetes. I was diagnosed Hashimoto's. I had high blood pressure. I was 110 pounds overweight, and I did not know what to do. So this is kind of funny, but in Albuquerque, I sought out an older personal trainer, and I actually found one. And I think at the time she was about 56 years old. So here I am, 120 pounds overweight, and with all the things. And I called her and said, I want to be a bodybuilder, because in my mind, I was thinking, well, I was a gymnast for years, and I always had a strong body, and I remember what that felt like. So I thought, maybe if I become a bodybuilder, I can get rid of all these diseases. And of course, that didn't work. I went ahead and I did stick with her, and I hired her for 6 months, and that's when I got reintroduced to the gym, and it was intimidating, but I had a list of exercises to follow. And so because of her, I was already going to school for my pathology degree, and I was already seeking out functional medicine, and I was already seeking out the things, but I was so brand new to it, and there's so much to learn that I didn't know who to turn to. Well, through the Cleveland Clinic, they offered me a health coach, and that health coach literally, she changed my life, really, and she helped me set up everything that I do in my practice now. So I run my practice based on her. I don't use the word goal setting, because goals become failures to a lot of us, people like me. And I use the word protocol because I wanted to dominate that protocol. Even though I was chunky and big and had all the things, I still wanted to dominate something. Well, the way that when I got my health coach and she helped me dominate that protocol, and, that led me to learning about hormones, and it led me to find you, and then when I found you and I got hormones, man, that really changed again, so everything just climbed on top of each other until I've completely reversed almost all those diagnoses except for hypothyroid. I'm still working on that. I still, show that. But I just think that if somebody is really determined, so in my practice, we have a discovery call, and I ask questions, and then at the last question, on the scale from 1 to 10, how serious are you about changing this? Because like you said a while ago, I don't want to take their money if they don't want to do the program. And if they're a 6 or less, that's okay. I put them on a waiting list. I put them on my email list, and I keep them involved. I keep feeding them information, and maybe I might not be the person, but if I'm not, I know other health coaches. I'm an affiliate program, so I have access to over 600 coaches, like myself, that are board certified and even functional diagnostic nutritionists, because our personalities need to jive with our health coach. So I would suggest that if somebody wants to change their lifestyle and they don't know where to start, and they tried all the things, whatever those may be, and they feel like they just need a little bit more, finding a health coach can really become fast friends too, because I need to know all the things. I want to know everything about the lifestyle, and we let them talk. When they come to me, I let them talk for about 5 minutes, to give me a follow-up from the week before. And one of the greatest things to see is how they change physically, but how they start setting up those healthy lifestyles for their family, and it becomes their second talk. And I often point it out and say, hey, did you just notice that you said, or did you just notice that you've incorporated? And sometimes they don't, because it becomes natural. And that's how I know that health coaching is working. That's how I always, point out, because sometimes I'm the middle person between them and their doctor, or them and their physician, or them and whoever sent them. And I always make it a point to email whoever sent them, the referral party, and tell them, hey, so-and-so is doing A, B, C, and D, so that they can talk to them about it, and so that they can know, that they are making the changes, and they're making healthy lifestyle changes.
So I think a topic that you and I think even the general public sees often is this topic of alcohol, right? So, alcohol is socially accepted. But I think, when patients come to me that are drinking alcohol, daily, 5, 6 times, and, whatever that time frame might be, I don't tell them they need to stop alcohol immediately.
Right.
Because, like, going back to your point, that's goal setting, and they're going to probably fail at that. Right. But I also ask them, like, how do you feel? How do you wake up? Are you rested? Are you tired? Do you have a headache? because, I mean, especially with hormone fluctuations for females, you and I both know even just a glass of wine, of what it can raise havoc on those hormone fluctuations that occur at night when we're sleeping, from the cortisol to the growth hormone to progesterone rise and fall, all the above, right? And so I don't make it a bad thing.
Right.
My husband and I are very social, and we have a group of people that we'll on Friday nights or Saturday, we'll go have a glass of wine or margarita or whatever that might be with them. But I think I focus on the importance of moderation. Like, can we get you to just one drink? Can I get you to having one drink and then drinking a full glass of water before you even ask for another drink? That's one way, I kind of approach it, because, as you and I both know, alcohol's poison. Right? There's no freaking health benefits to any alcohol. It's a poison, right? And then what it's doing from an inflammatory perspective, even just one drink, what it's doing, what cell signaling it's turning on, turning off. And because the majority of us drink at night or in the evenings, right? When all those cells actually need to be starting to get down regulated so we can start sleeping. Not that I want people to drink in the day, but in reality, it would be better if you drank in the morning, because that's when cells are getting ramped up, right? Not that I'm encouraging people to be morning drinkers, but I laugh at that in the sense of, like, if you're really going to continue, just start drinking in the morning, maybe, But so I try to meet patients where they're at, just because there's so many. I can just think of a handful of patients off the top of my head that it's part of their job, from a realtor to meeting clients. It's part of their job. And so it's nothing that I can take away, nor do I want to. But I try to help them look at how can we adapt this so that it's moderation and that we are still staying hydrated with alcohol, because as you and I both know, alcohol is terribly dehydrating. Not only, I explain to people, there's a reason why you get a headache. You're dehydrated. And so, literally making yourself drink a glass of water. Or, I think I'd be curious if you, as far as all those mocktails, like at my gym, they make these mocktails out of element water that, the electrolytes, the element electrolytes, and it's freaking phenomenal. So like on Fridays, they literally have mocktail margaritas, but it's just element. All it is a splash of that element powder.
Yes, the powder.
And some fresh lime and sparkling water. And it's freaking amazing.
No, I think that's great. And so in my practice as well, we work with people that sometimes drink, but a big component of this is education. The why. Why don't I want you to do it, or why wouldn't I think it would be, best for your body? And we talk about the glymphatic system, how your brain dumps at night and how your liver dumps at night and how your body cleanses itself. And it seems like once they get the education to that, and like I said, we have an hour, at my appointments. So those appointments are set up with 3 different topics. And we always address the alcohol. If somebody drinks alcohol, and just like you said, even if it's one drink, even if it's one drink every single day, pretty much, it adds up. But, in correcting disease, you have to rid the alcohol. And really, in PubMed or any of the medical journals, there's not one research that says that alcohol is good for you. So I don't say that they need to get rid of it, but pretty soon, over time, what you see is them limiting it. So my husband wouldn't mind me sharing this because we talk about it openly all the time, but my husband was an alcoholic, and his health was really, going downhill. So at 42 years old, he literally, he had all the things, and he did not want to get his blood work done. And he still hasn't got all of his lab work done from me, because he's still adjusting and he's making better lifestyle changes. But, he can honestly say that every day when he drank, he wanted to go home at 2:00, because we wake up at 4:30 because he needs to be at work at 5:30. And, since he's changed that, his face has changed, his body's changed, his body structure, just his overall habits. I mean, become Bob the Builder around our house. He does a lot of landscape work. He's the main garden grower now, so he grows all the vegetables and it's just really changed his life, so taking the alcohol out. And as I work with women, over time, when they take the alcohol out, pretty soon they don't miss it. Yep. And the thing is about the mocktails you're talking about, they incorporate those and they have just as much fun and have a good conversation, drinking mocktails over drinking alcohol.
Yeah. Well, and I think the other thing with these GLP-1 craze, like at Beyond Health, I don't even promote it for the weight loss. And because not, as you and I both know, not all weight loss is positive, right? It has to be with the correct body composition that we're, as we're losing fat, we're increasing muscle mass. But one area that I have seen the GLP-1s, the Ozempic, the Mounjaro, that's had a huge impact is my alcoholics. Because of that brain-gut connection that the GLP-1, the GIPs with the tirzepatide is turning off. Yes. And, I've, used that often for my men and women that have come in that are drinking too much and they really want to, but it's just they can't turn off that craving noise, right? And so, I think that's a phenomenal tool, along with, like what you were saying, the habits and replacing it. And, think of how much more productive your husband is now.
Yeah. And it boils down to education. Why should I quit doing it? Or, so-and-so said it's good, or my friends are still doing it and they're still getting up and going to work every day. So, a lot of it is really holding space for them and giving education.
Well, Mashelle, I just want to thank you truly for taking your time out of your busy day with your practice and coming here. I think it's been extremely informative for our listeners, and I hope that they take something from it. I know I have definitely learned some health habit changes that I need to correct in my life. So thank you.
Well, thank you for having me, and I really appreciate being able to be on your podcast.
Yep.